This weekend in Washington, D.C., and in cities across the United States, those who are anti-Second Amendment and against guns will march in the name of school safety. But are there really more shootings happening at schools these days? Hey everybody, I'm Chad Hasty, host of the Chad Hasty Show, which airs weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 a.m. KFYO. Reading from an article here on Vox, thousands of people are expected to rally in Washington, D.C. this weekend for a March for Our Lives protest to advocate for gun control. Thousands more will join them at other marches in cities large and small across the country. In fact, here in Lubbock, Texas, there will actually be a march at the Social Justice Corner at 19th and University at about 5 p.m. The local group who is anti-gun and all for gun control will march in the name of school safety. But the question is there really an epidemic of school shootings happening in the United States? Are school shootings actually on the rise? If you listen to the teenagers who are on TV all the time from Florida, by the way, they're not the ones who really organized this. This is all being organized by leftist groups. But if you listen to the teenagers on TV, they say that there's a mass shootings that happen every single day at schools. And that simply is not the case. I want to read an article or a portion of this article from NPR. Yeah, NPR. The headline came out over the weekend. Despite heightened fear of school shootings, it's not a growing epidemic. The Parkland shooting last month has energized student activists who are angry and frustrated over gun violence, but it's also contributed to the impression that school shootings are a growing epidemic in America. The author writes, in truth, they're not. Schools are safer today than they have been in previous decades, says James Allen Fox, professor of criminology at Northwestern University, who has studied the phenomenon of mass murder since the 1980s. First, while multiple victim shootings in general are on the rise, it's not the case for schools. They write on NPR here, there's an average of about one a year in a country with more than 100,000 schools. Quote, there were more back in the 90s than recent years, says Fox. For example, in one school year, 1997 to 98, there were 4 multiple victim shootings in schools. Second, the overall number of gunshot victims at schools is also down. According to Fox's numbers, again, this a professor at Northeastern University, Fox's numbers back in 1992-1993, about 0.55 students per million were shot and killed. In 2014-2015, that rate's actually closer to 0.15 per million. Quote, the difference is the impression, the perception that we have today. And he traced that back to cable news and social media. Quote, today we all have cell phone recordings of gunfire that play over and over and over again. So it's the impression that it's very different. That's why people think things are a lot worse now, but the statistics say otherwise. How about that? You've got to take all of this information and process it. You can't just go based off of emotion. And what this professor says is that if you actually look at the statistics say that mass shootings at schools are not on the rise. And in fact, if you go and look at just violence in general in the United States, it has come down compared to going up. So this idea that we need to get rid of guns and ban guns, it's a stupid idea that's being based off of emotion and being based off of these children who are being put on TV. And it's not all the children, by the way. You've got some conservative kids, some pro-Second Amendment kids who are not being put on TV, but the people like David Hogg and some of his other anti-gun friends, they're the ones being put on TV by the Democrats, by the leftists, and trying to sell the message that we need gun control in this country. That's not true. We don't need gun control in this country. What we need is for current laws to be enforced, for our background check system to be secure and to be right, and to have the right information put into the background check system. We need to make sure that current laws are followed, and that those who are with the FBI and all law enforcement across the country follow up on leads when people say something because they saw something. We need to do that, and we need to have more security at all of our schools. And finally, we all need to have security on ourselves. In other words, those of us who are responsible, those of us who want to carry a firearm to protect ourselves, we should all be allowed to protect ourselves, our family, our homes, whether it's with an AR-15 or a handgun, no matter what it may be. We should be able to protect ourselves. These marches that are going to be happening this weekend, and this will be my last video of the week as I'll be out of town, but these marches that are going to be happening this week, it's based off of emotion. It's based off of the left wanting to sell these teenagers as a grassroots movement when they are not. This was organized by the Women's March organizers. This is not a grassroots organization that came up with these teenagers to go out and call for gun control. So just remember that when you're watching. We don't have an epidemic of school shootings in the United States. We don't have an epidemic of mass shootings in the United States. We do have a problem with mental health in the United States. We do have a problem with the National Instant Criminal Background Check System not being 100%. We have a problem with that. And we have a problem when law enforcement does not go after leads once they've been given those leads. Those are the problems in America, and those are the problems that we can solve. Tune in to the Chad Hasty Show weekday mornings, 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Time on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO.